Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. At least in Columbus, Ohio, where we are, it's a beautiful sunny day for a change. So that's kind of fun for us. We haven't seen a lot of sun lately. Together, I have my partner in work and life. Dave Butler is with me, and myself, Laura Butler. We own a company together, so we have the ultimate work-life integration opportunity where we live and work and share our life together. We have done this now for the past 28 years, so I think we know a little bit about how to operate that way. And we're in our home office, in one room in the other room, so we don't drown you out with feedback today. But our company, Work-Life Performance Consulting, helps you to look at your performance of your work and your life so that you can have an ultimately a better experience in both. But how do we do that? That's a number of opportunities can come up to look at ways to enhance your work and your life. My background was in healthcare, initially prompted by having a father in show business and learning how to manage public speaking through some of the coaching from him. And then what I started doing was coaching physicians on how to run their offices, how to run their life and their work. So I ended up doing coaching long before the idea of coaching was even adhered to or listened to at that point. And since then, we've joined forces, David and myself, and I'll let David tell you a little bit about him. So, Dave, you want to take it over from here?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to figure out, am I on the screen? Am I just seeing myself?
There you go.
Is that me?
That's you. Before you go any further, I just want to have full disclosure here. We are not the Google Hangout experts, and we're trying out this technology because I think it's a great way to communicate about work and life. And so nothing in work and life is perfection. So we're ready to go and give it a chance. And the other is that we're live on YouTube. So this is like our own TV show that we have an opportunity to do today. Take it away, Dave.
Well, I think you said it all. My background is originally in the theater. I'm thrilled to be back on air again. I think this topic of work-life flexibility is a great topic for us to start with. There's an awful lot in today's world that gives us opportunities that we didn't have before. I was just reflecting on the fact that I can remember years ago having to pull over on the highway to find a payphone to be able to call home and talk to you. And now we're sitting in the same house with our headsets on and looking at each other on YouTube. So it's been quite a journey. So
absolutely,
that's what I have. I would reiterate, we're just trying things out. We're probably have a fault at trying things out too early sometimes, but today's probably the best way to just jump in and give it a shot. So let's
absolutely
see what happens.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background, though, in terms of how the segue from theater to working with organizations. And I think that's an interesting story, and what organizations were looking for when they'd ask you to come on board.
Okay. Originally, it started with my being asked to be a part of an HR training film and having the opportunity to try to work inside of a corporation. I didn't even know what a corporation was. I couldn't even spell HR. I'd spent 10, 15 years in the theater, and the theater wasn't anything like corporations. But in the time that I spent doing the HR training films, one of the HR people asked me if I'd be interested in doing some communication skills coaching for executives. I said, sure, why not? So it's a little like today, just jump in. To me, it was all theater. It was just like working with an actor. So I didn't really see that there was a big difference. I just started doing it face to face and working with people inside of business. One thing led to another, and I started working with the teams of some of the executives that I was working with. And to me, it just looked like a big rehearsal. Everyone was talking about roles and responsibilities and who did what when, and trying to make sense out of it. It seemed like it was just like another rehearsal. So I just kept on doing that and kept going with it and went back to school and attended some seminars and some webinars and all the things that started coming along. But most of the work has always been face to face. So this is a bit of a shift to learn how to start working through technology. It's one thing to be in the same room with somebody and another thing to see somebody's eyeballs on a screen. So this has been a little bit of a flexible challenge for me, but I think I've always been in a flexible lifestyle. You might get a gig out of town. You'd go out of town for 3 months and perform. You come back to the city. You start connecting with people again. You do your part-time job at a restaurant. I mean, it's always been what today is known as a portfolio career. I've always had a portfolio career starting from college onwards. And I think what's happening, for me, what I see happening with a lot of people is they're starting to experience that not only portfolio career, which loosely translated would be a series of different projects, maybe for one company or for several companies, but in addition to that is also a flexible lifestyle. You can never tell really week to week where your meetings are going to be, which project is going to ask for what. You might be on the road more than usual, or maybe you'd be back home working like we're working with a computer and headsets and dealing with a team that's all over the world. So a lot of the people that I've been coaching lately, it's been more working with their own sense of flexibility, the ability to move from one project to another, as opposed to things being more predictable, more scheduled for the week. And I'm sure everybody on the call here knows what I mean by schedules changing. I spend more time on my calendar than I do anywhere else. So does that give us a little bit to get started with, Laura?
Absolutely. I'm seeing that people are joining in, and if you're unable to find the link, I just sent it in the comment box, and that should give you the URL right to the video. Again, we are not experts at this. I think this is working. If you just want to make a little comment in the box there to know that you're with me, I would appreciate that. I see some people I know that have joined us, and I've asked you to send in your comments and or questions. We'd like this to be, let's just hang out. Let's just have a chat. That's what's fun about all of this. We have prepared, just as a toolbox here, we have prepared a few slides to jumpstart the conversation. So why don't we get that first slide up, Dave, and you're Mr. Technology Plus.
Yeah, being the technical expert that I am, I'm going to try and click the right button. I don't even know if it's on the screen yet, but I think you might have to click something to put it on the main screen.
Let me go and try that. Okay, so we have the work-life flexibility is the challenge of our time, and I couldn't say it any better than that. We've had the opportunity in the name of our company being Work-Life Performance Consulting to be kind of labeled the work-life experts. As I said earlier, we are not so much the work-life balance experts, but we are the work-life performance, helping you with your everyday performance of work and life, and giving you the opportunity to look at it in terms of how that works for you. What's your challenge? What are the things that work for you? It's not one size fits all in this whole discussion of work-life flexibility. And we thought we'd choose this because it's kind of brought to light again. We had several years ago worked with an organization in town here talking about work-life flexibility issues, and we were connected with the Work and Family and Life Institute in Washington, D.C., which was a really interesting organization doing all sorts of research on this topic. But it was really brought to light recently by the Yahoo decision, where the demand was everybody has to work in the office. Now, there are two sides to the story, of course. We like to hear the side from the perspective of the individuals, but there's reasons for that. Maybe they need to take some time and get everybody in the same boat, so to speak, so that they can address the challenges that they have in their flexibility. And how does that relate to their employees and getting the job done and the return on investment and all those buzzwords we all like to hear. But then there was an article in the New York Times last week about Google. And the direct opposite is they were talking about and showing and showcasing the New York City headquarters. And it's a place where I looked at the article and I said, boy, would I like to work there. And it's just an open environment. Now, there's a lot of demands on their time, of course, but it's not measured in terms of did you come in at a certain time and did you leave at a certain time. So there's a broader discussion here. Dave, you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, can I add something?
Sure, absolutely.
One of the reasons that I surnamed this slide "The Challenge of Our Time" is a little bit of a double entendre, because not only is it the challenge of our time, the time period we're living in, I also think that in the end, the topic is the challenge of our own time. How do we spend the time that we have for work and life? I know we're certainly just as guilty of it as anyone else. We're answering emails at 11 o'clock at night. We're still on the computer trying to research things and do work that has to do with what we have coming up or preparing materials. And it's not only 8 o'clock in the morning, it's like I say, midnight. So the challenge isn't just the challenge of how we use our time, it's a challenge of what we do with our time. Technology has given us this opportunity to do work at home and to pay attention to what's going on at home while we're at work. It doesn't have to be, in our case, like it's in our home anyway, but I'm sure people answer emails with their kids in the middle of the day. They're making appointments for the dentist. They're doing things that have to do with their personal lives on quote unquote what used to be called company time. But just in the same way we use company, we things for the company on our personal time. I'm totally aware of the fact that I'm in the middle of a meeting and somebody's probably texting their children. But I know when we're here at home, just Laura and I, there's plenty of times that we're in the middle of talking about something that has to do with our home life, and the phone will ring or she'll get a text and have to go and answer a question. So really, it's a broader aspect of how is our use of our time changing.
Absolutely.
So I'll change the slide now the way you asked, if I can. It doesn't seem to want to be working. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Let me go back
Brilliant.
one. Let me go back. Let's bring up all my slides all at once.
Okay.
Ah, there it is. I thought this would be an interesting slide to throw up there, is to take a little bit of a quick look at where we've been. I think one of the things that's affecting the topic of work-life flexibility in today's world is everything that we know, everything that we have is based on a world that no longer exists. Now, in some cases, I still go into organizations and I see not quite something like this, but something similar. Lots of cubicles and everybody organized around certain tasks. But this is pretty much the way that our expectations of work are formed. Whether we go all the way back in the Industrial Revolution to Henry Ford's mass production theories, but this is where, 50, 60 years after he started all that, this is the way our organizations were put together. And it's hard to let go of these ideas. It's hard to let go of the idea that work happens in a particular place. And I think if there was anything that we really need to question and take a look at is the idea of place. Like Yahoo wanted to bring everybody together. Do they have to get together at the office? We're getting together. We're on the same call. We're in the same virtual space. So we're questioning our basic concepts of what place means for work.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I actually think I see you back there, don't I?
Yeah, I think that's me.
Yeah.
I'm standing there telling somebody what to do.
Exactly. But I mean, I remember this, not quite this time, but a little after this, in terms of everybody, as you said, being in one location, and how much times have changed today. And the other thing that I always like to bring up around this flexibility issue is the generational differences. Now, here's an image that the Gen Y, our kids, have never seen. They see pretty people in offices, but it's not like this was the only way that people communicate. This is the touchstone, kind of touch base, and then go on to your virtual space, wherever it may be. And lately, I was reading something about how similar the Gen Y generation is to the Boomer generation. It's just that the difference mainly is in technology. So look at technology and how much that has changed how we view flexibility.
Yeah, I think that's a critical point, Laura. And one of the things that it brings up for me is the importance of co-location, whether it's virtual or physical. We do long for our work buddies. We long for the ability to be able to get together. You and I can get away from each other by going in different parts of the house, but we usually find a way to get together and discuss things at some point during the day. So the positive side of workplace flexibility is it's expanded the idea of place. But on the other hand, I sense and I see in some people the need to get together with people sometimes and to just have a meeting. I'd like to be able to have some eyeball time.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the other thing that brings up is it's different, as I said earlier, for everybody. Not everybody, there are people who really want to connect with others and have that face time, more so than somebody who needs some private time to regroup and get their thoughts together and
Right.
have some time to think about what they're doing next. And then there are the others who kind of like a mix of both, but they're going to operate from the perspective of the process is in place, the systems are here. So it could be why there's a lot of need for those people to have in-office time or have the tools that are going to enable them to be able to connect. We've done a lot of work with virtual teams and how do we enhance the relationships with teams, especially today, who are virtual. And then there are those that don't really care about where the space is. They just want to get it done and keep moving. So I think that
Right.
makes
Right.
a big change.
Well, I could say I think what you're saying, if I might paraphrase it, is one of the ghosts of the past is that the farther back in time we go, the more one size fits all.
Right.
You didn't have the choices. It was meant to be lowest common denominator. Everybody had the same. To where today there is no one size fits all anymore. Everybody's got a lot of different choices in terms of how they want to go about it. So work life flexibility isn't necessarily just about place and time. It's also about approach and how I can be most effective and most motivated, um, rather than trying to make myself fit into a particular pattern.
Absolutely. So I posted a question, what's flexibility like with your work and life? So if you just type in a reply on the comment page there, and we'll be happy to address that. Why don't we go to the next slide, Dave? Again, Mr.
Okay,
Techno
let's see if
Whiz.
I can make that happen.
Not the last slide, but
Whoa!
the
It actually
next.
moved.
Aha! Well, I love this one because, first of all, the image on the right, if you look at it long enough, you'll see a couple of different things. You look at it initially, it's the vase. You look at it a little longer, oh, I see two silhouettes. So it's kind of going back to what I always look at in terms of everything is how our perspective about any issue, any change, any nuance, anything that's different, how we look at it and how we, whether it's a half full or half empty kind of approach as well, is how we learn to embrace or not that opportunity for moving forward. So there seems to be in this world of work-life flexibility resistance. So what is it that creates that widespread manager resistance? We question the perspective again would be to look at assumptions, the ghosts of the past. How long are they still lingering? Are we able to move them aside a little bit and take a look at a new way of doing the work that must get done? Or the inability to quantify, that going back to,
If I,
go ahead. Were you starting to say something?
I was just going to say back in what, yeah, I wanted to say in the widespread manager resistance, What I've seen and what I've noticed in some of the instances is just a simple question. Managers have asked me, how am I supposed to manage somebody if I can't see them?
Exactly.
So I think the real issue is managers growing their skills and getting used to other ways to be able to interact with people.
Hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'm sure there are many who are more skilled. There are some that are even more skilled than we are with doing Hangouts.
Sure.
I mean, that might be a way that they could use this kind of technology is to stay connected and with the people that work with them or for them. But I think managers just need to have some opportunity to get used to new ways of doing things to overcome that resistance. I don't think it's because they're just naturally resistant. I think it's because they don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility, on the plate too. There was a sort of a contrasting article I was listening or reading yesterday about, we can talk all about flexibility and we can talk about talent management and we can talk about performance reviews, but what the manager is responsible for ultimately is the result. So how do we look at that in a different way and provide, make it as important that the results that we want to get to are going to depend on the engagement and the kind of the autonomy for the individual.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And on the second bullet point, the harboring old assumptions about how work must be done, until we get to a place where I could actually experience and see I can do my work in new ways. I mean, I have this feeling. I'm used to standing in a room with a flip chart and a magic marker. Now I'm sitting in a room with a screen. It's much different when you start trying to understand how to adapt yourself to new ways to doing the work.
Exactly. I'm going to.
Did anybody send you a message?
I'm going to look back here in just a second.
Well, I'll fill in some dead time with the third bullet on the inability to quantify. Um, the reason here is not because it's unquantifiable, it's because we haven't yet developed the systems and the metrics to be able to measure it. Now, you could say it's as simple as it may be measuring how long someone's on their computer, on their call, no matter where they are. But depending on the organization, I'd much rather have people out on the road using their smartphone, connecting with customers and clients, solving problems. What would you measure there? Or would it be time on the road? Would it be time with the client? Or in the end, is it the standard results, which are how many widgets did you sell?
Exactly. So it becomes it's again going back to the one size does not fit all methodology. How does it work for each company? It's going to be different. It depends on the culture of the company. It depends on the situation and the experiences. And for ourselves, I know there are a couple of people on the call today who are not working within organizations. They have been there and have selected the opportunity to be independent contractors, to be entrepreneurs. So it's the world has changed. I think 2008 has really set a new change mode in motion. The financial demise of individuals, corporations has changed a lot since that time. So I think that's when I think I keep going back and forth because I'm talking there, but I think that's what has caused a lot of people to step back and take a look. So so we have different people now who are entrepreneurs. How does work-life flexibility work there? You mentioned it, Dave, early on. And in our world, we've known pretty much nothing but this lifestyle. Where we've had the ability to create the timing around our work and life that has worked for raising a family, that has worked for having our relationship, all the things that go on to scheduling in the life side that has integrated with the work side. So today is a different image, I think. There's the company, there's the individual, there's the ability to look at your entrepreneurship capabilities if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
I think one thing to keep in mind, I seem to remember from some of the Google Hangout materials that we looked at, I think when somebody speaks, it automatically goes to the screen of that person or the picture of that person. Is that right? Is that what happens here?
Yes. Yes. Um, so that I think there's
Okay.
I
So,
can
so
never see.
we're just learning this. So,
Yeah, we're so far, you're getting the information across, so that's good. I haven't seen your picture, your image in quite a while. I just see the slides, but I can hear you fine.
well, I think it's because
I'm seeing somebody said they can comment from their iPad, but not on the computer screen. So it depends on, I'm not sure of all those settings. But there was a comment that's an interesting interjection here. Angela says the management was not trusting that there were people working like they thought they should be. If not the manager, the upper management, or the coworkers. So I think it speaks to that, that trust is the big word here. So how do you create
trust
trust
is
is
the
the
magic.
magic? Yeah, exactly. Uh, Angela knows what we're talking about, but that's very, very true that, trust is the magic. And how do you create environments that even, in a family like ours, the trust has to be there that that each other will get the job done when it creates a work and life experience. Internally in organizations, the same thing. How do you create that culture of trust?
Well, and I think another thing to keep in mind, it keeps coming up for me, and especially with these stumbling blocks idea, is that some place like Yahoo, with everybody coming back in, there's going to be resentment, there's going to be difficulty. There is a topic which we've addressed in the past called presenteeism.
Right.
If you Google that, you'll see there's been some research done on this. It loosely defined means people who sit there looking at the clock and are not engaged. Would you rather have them be present or action oriented, going and getting things done, and maybe not in the space? I think a lot of companies suffer from presenteeism. We come in and we're there, but not. It's like the what's the old saying? The lights on, but nobody's home.
Right. Exactly. Well, why don't we go to the next slide?
Did that work?
It worked. So why is work-life flexibility important? I think back to 2011, you look
Way
at the,
back, way
yeah,
back
way back.
in the old days.
And then today's time frame, that is the old days. You look at 73% of the U.S. workforce was remote and mobile. That's a pretty high number. And there's another
Yeah,
piece I
there's
would,
only I think one of the last statistics I saw was that less than 8% of the workforce actually works in major corporations.
wow,
It's kind of hard to imagine, but the more people are in small business, out on their own, on the road. They may work for larger corporations, but they're loosely connected to the corporation. They're either an agent or an emissary or a representative of some sort.
wow. The other thing that it brings to mind is this concept of engagement. So engagement has certainly been, discussed for a number of years. Gallup has done a number of research and has a number of articles on the idea of engagement. Lately, I've heard about sustainable engagement. So how do we sustain engagement? When sustainable engagement occurs, I think it's like the same number here. It's about 70% of improvement in the overall tone and production of the organization. No
Well,
big aha there, but I think it's certainly a number to pay attention to.
I'm intrigued by the second bullet. Last year, the latest figures, there were over 120 million Gen Y. Now, Laura, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what Gen Y is.
Oh, certainly. It's the 28 and under, I think, is the broad range or scope of that. Maybe 30. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that it's recent graduates through probably late 20s, early 30s.
Right. So we have two sons who are Gen Y, and the interesting experience as a parent watching them grow up and go through this technology revolution is that the idea of multitasking, although I still hear from people it's not possible to multitask. I would try to argue that with my kids and to no avail because multitasking was the way of the world for them.
Well, a good example of a Gen Y attitude is our son Jeff, who's doing medical office personnel recruiting out in California. And when he was trying to make his decision to go and take the job out there, one of the first things that he asked me was, "Do you think they're going to make me sit in the office all day?"
Right. And again, it's a Gen Y characteristic, but it's also a characteristic of his personality. So you need to look at there are a number of things to pay attention to when
True.
we're talking about this. It's the style of the individual. He's the kind of guy that wants to be out in a fishing boat all day long, but he realizes he has to make a living. Other people have different interests. So, but I think that Gen Y, Gen X is just a little bit older, so they were just on the cutting edge of this whole revolution, but they certainly grew up with it too.
Mid mid 30s. They're technologically savvy, but they have a little bit more of the expectation that there's regularity in their life and in their space, and they're a little less flexible, I suppose would be a good word to use.
Right. However, you look at the last bullet there, 87% of all workers rated flexibility as very important. It reminds me, too, of one of our favorite authors. Some of you may know him, is a guy by the name of Daniel Pink, written several books. His latest is To Sell is Human. But in Drive, Dave, speak a little bit about that. I love I think it ties in with this, what's important to people today, flexibility being one thing, but his work addresses other aspects.
Right. The research, Dan Pink's second book, Drive, he looked at all the subtitle of the book is what the surprising truth about what really motivates us. And the research has shown consistently for many years, actually, he makes a really interesting point. I was laughing about it the other day. It's the most researched topic in business, and the results are incontrovertible, but it's the most ignored of all of the results and the research that's come from all of the work that's been done. And the issue is that money is not the prime motivator. We all realize we need money to make a living, but his research and the research that he cites has consistently shown that there are three things that are more motivating than money. One is a sense of purpose, that what I'm doing adds up to something, not only for me, but for the company. And if I don't have that line of sight that says what I do on a daily basis makes a difference, I lose motivation. Second motivator is called mastery, meaning I like to be the best at what it is that I do. I always want to feel like I'm growing and developing and getting better. So we know you're a sailor, huh? Why don't we just move to the next slide and keep going?
Sounds good.
I chose these pictures because I thought it was one of the best examples of how things have changed. On the left-hand side, you get one of the reasons that I think organizations, it's a reflection of how the organization was constructed. There was this central space where there was somebody always plugging in wires. And in other words, one of the reasons that people were co-located to the extent that they are was mainly because of communications. If you think about it, there just was no way to be able to communicate with each other without being in the same space. What's freed us up all the way through the internet and smartphones and everything else, we really don't need that anymore. So when we do get together, we should really be doing that in order to be able to have that interpersonal time. We don't really need it anymore to be able to do a lot of the actual work. Even here on Google Hangout and on some other materials we've been using, you can work on a document at the same time.
Exactly. Live time.
Live time. And then when we do get together, we can have the opportunity to do the things that we are better to do live.
Exactly. But look at all those. I mean, talk about a revolution. Look at all those opportunities, and that's not even all of it right now. It's always interesting to see an older movie and watch this in action, the switchboard operator.
And
in some ways,
another interesting piece to this is that this is only, I think I put together this slide about, at least this picture that's on this slide, I put this together just about a year ago. Half of the things that are on here, I was just noticing, are either been bought or merged or no longer exist.
Right.
It's amazing how quickly all of this stuff changes.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to put Google Hangout on here.
Yeah. If everybody stays with us, we'll do more of these. Or if we can stay with it, that's the real question.
So I did this last slide. I thought, some of the indicators of the workplace future, the things that will be affecting our work-life flexibility even more. These 4 areas are also referred to by one of my favorite speakers. His name is Don Tapscott. If anybody wants to Google him when we're done, he's got a TED Talk called 4 Principles of Openness. And I think that they're indicators of the workplace future. One way or another, we're going to be collaborating more and more and more. The days of being able to get something done on your own are gone. In order to get anything done, I've got to be connected to several other people. Back about a decade ago, there was an article called What's So New About the New Economy, where Alan Weber, one of the founders of Fast Company, made the statement in this article that work has become conversation. Everything that we do is in collaboration with someone else somewhere else. Secondly, we're going to be sharing more and more of our information. The collaboration relies on sharing, but also the trust. That trust is the magic that we were talking about, is definitely about sharing. Having an openness, being open to others' way of doing things, sharing our styles, and being able to work together in ways that we've never worked together before. There is no one-size-fits-all. And lastly, the empowerment aspect. That's an indicator of the future more and more. It used to be a funny word that some people would use and other people would say, oh, the E word. But it's even more important in today's world that you take the information that you have, that others have shared with you and you're collaborating with others, and do something with it. Making decisions has become more of a frontline activity, less of a top-level down activity. Back to you, Laura.
Yeah, I think I love to watch that TED Talk of Don Tapscott. I just put it in the comment section, so if you want to look at it, take a look at and Google Don Tapscott. and you can find the talk. And I've been talking to some of our clients, going back to some of the things that we do. We work individually with people who are in career transition, people who are looking to identify the next chapter of their lives, and also that we work in organizations to help teams with this trust of as the magic concept by building communications, and we support people with public speaking and presentation skills, going back to our exposure to the arts and theater. But I'm talking to people lately about these four things more often. And one of the things that Tapscott says in his presentation is that if organizations or any of us for that matter, are talking about aligning ourselves with the best practice, we're already done. What we need to be looking at is what is the next practice. So I try to help clients identify that. It's not always easy because we align ourselves with the strategies that are quote unquote best and strive to reach those. But how about if we go beyond that and take a look at what's right for us? What's unique to us as an individual? What's unique to us as a team? What's unique to us as an organization that takes us out of the scope of the industry? And sort of what's the Star Wars or the Toy Story? There's Tom Hanks' character was with his buddy there to the universe and beyond, or something like that. So it's kind of like that idea. And so I'm talking to people who are looking for leadership opportunities and suggesting that they keep in mind that they have the ability to look at these four principles. As a leader, this is what people should be doing. And he says that we kind of lock ourselves into what's in front of us as kind of that individual corporate groupthink methodology, as opposed to, oh, there you are, hi, as opposed to the broader scope of looking beyond the walls.
And in the interest of full disclosure, I think we should give credit to Angela for not only having helped us save the broadcast, but also for being the beginner of the Trust is Magic movement.
Absolutely. Well, and Angela even mentioned something in one of her comments here, where she said she now works from her office. And she loves the flexibility of being able to work out of her office. She'll post several pictures on Facebook, which I think is terrific, of her dog, who's a big dog, sitting in her lap, which is one of the pluses of Google, by the way. You can bring your dog to the office. But, but she says when she was in sales, there was always an issue with trust. It's one of the key components of discussions around building teams and creating that environment for growth. Anything else that you would add, Dave, in terms of the trust topic?
Well, I think it's an issue that comes up with us now because we have to find new ways to build trust. In the workplace of the past, we had to be in the same space. We'd have more opportunities to have a coffee together. We'd have more opportunities to have lunch together. We'd be more aware of each other's families, backgrounds. The story I always tell was a senior executive team that I was working with down in Dallas, and the president and I were talking one day, and I was asking him some information, some insights about some of the people that worked for him, some of the vice presidents, and I suddenly realized that he didn't know anything about them. Didn't know about their families, didn't know about their kids. Obviously, there was a trust issue. That's what we were discussing. So I said, why don't you take some time to get to know everybody? Then, of course, I sent him a big fat bill for that little piece of advice. But it's the nature of the world today. I mean, people are in different locations; they're all over the place, and we don't have that inadvertent opportunity to get to know each other as much. We have to make it an intentional effort to get to know each other. It doesn't mean we got to pry and get into each other's personal business. But it's a good thing to know that one of your children just scored a big goal in the soccer game, or that the boss that you have is undergoing some difficult family times. just knowing that about each other helps us to build trust with each other in the workplace because it's not so separate anymore. We don't check our lives at the door and go to work. We bring our lives with us into work, and we bring our work with us into our life.
Hence, work-life performance. There you go.
Bingo.
Bingo.
I didn't know if you were interested, Laura. I do have the other. I think this might tee up. I'm trying to see if it shows up. Um, where is that? This. Maybe I have to put it on the drive. Let me see if I go back to the screen share. I should be able to call this up.
What do you got?
The top 10 reasons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's always a good, the David Letterman approach to things.
Right.
Does that show up?
Yes, it does.
Top 10 reasons for workplace flexibility. Our old friend Mick Jagger. You can't get no satisfaction without it. 67%, this was back in 2004, this statistic, 67% of employees reported high levels of satisfaction that had high levels of workplace flexibility versus only 23% with low levels of flexibility. Now imagine this is almost a decade ago. Imagine what it is today.
Right.
Many organizational studies have established that employees having a small measure of flexibility have significantly greater satisfaction, stronger commitment to the job, higher levels of engagement, and lower levels of stress.
What's number 9?
I'm trying to make this move. One of my favorites, Jack Nicholson and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. 57% of employees exhibit higher levels of mental health issues. The higher levels of mental health is better with medium or high levels of flexibility. 17% in organizations with low levels of flexibility. In other words, lower flexibility, more craziness. Probably has to do with stress-related issues more than anything.
Right.
8, who needs a diamond ring when you're engaged at work? 67%
I'll still take the diamond ring.
67%, 66% of employees report higher levels of engagement and commitment where workplace flexibility is high versus 56% with low levels of flexibility. Again, a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs are not the only ones who are loyal. 72, talk about bringing dogs to work. Angela, this one's for you. 72% of employees plan to remain with their employers for the next year in organizations that have higher levels of flexibility. Only 49% with low levels. So it's almost double. So this definitely affects retention. Stockbrokers, companies with higher committed employees had 112% return over 3 years compared to 90% for companies with average commitment and 76% for companies with low commitment. So if flexibility is a factor in commitment and loyalty, you can follow the money. So there is a bottom line to this.
Absolutely.
Hackers aren't slackers. Generation X fathers spend almost 1.5 hours more time with their children than boomer fathers did with children of the same age. And I'm guilty of this myself. I mean, I was on the road. Laura can attest to this. I'd leave Monday, come back Friday, and be home for the weekend, bleary-eyed. And of course, I'd walk in on Friday, and she'd say, "You're gonna have to do something about these kids." So I'd spend the weekend doing something about the kids, and then get back on the road again. 52% of Gen X fathers aspire to advance, that's down from 68%. They work 3 hours a week more than those of the same age in 1977. So I think there's some interesting conversations we need to have about generation. Because in some cases, there are people that are more used to certain kinds of flexibility, and their expectations are completely different. Flexibility can help to level the playing field. It makes more of a positive difference in retention and stress among lower wage employees than their more advantaged counterparts. Older workers like it better part-time. This is back to that idea of the portfolio. We were just speaking with a senior executive last night at a function that we went to, and she was talking about leaving the job that she was in. She just last month, and now she's got what I would call a portfolio career and enjoys it a lot more. She's on a board. She's working with 2 or 3 other groups.
But an interesting discussion, to add something to her, because I know her well too. When we were talking about with another organization the idea of workplace flexibility, and this was about women in particular, how early in her career she was confident enough that she got her job done, and she didn't ask permission to do things on her personal time. She just did it. So not everybody is able to do that, but I think it is an interesting point that I think we wait sometimes to get permission when in fact it's probably okay to just go and do it until there's some other thing that comes up or there's some strategy that can be created.
So this is back to the slide that I used before. 8 out of 10 employees want it, meaning more flexibility. This is, if you remember, one of the things that I said, why is it important? Over 80% of surveys, workers in surveys have indicated that they want it more and could use more flexibility if they could do it without negative consequences. And lastly, our little buddy down here who says you can't have it all. It's a workplace that works for both employees and employers. They want to overcome presenteeism, includes job autonomy. That was what Daniel Pink's findings in Drive, the third level, which is where we cut off before. The third factor of motivation was autonomy. Having learning opportunities, supervisor support, involvement in decision making, and flexible options. Because as Peter Drucker once said, there's a big difference between doing things right and doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
So back to you.
Well, I think we're coming up right on the hour. Sorry for the little glitch in our techno-savvy experience here, but this has been fun. I think that's what the whole point of this is just to give it a shot, try it out. What we'd like to do is expand this and invite more people into our break room here. I think we can have up to 9 people in the room and get different perspectives.
Yeah, we should have a panel discussion of some sort.
Absolutely.
Maybe on flexibility or some other work-life issues, workplace issues. But the one thing that I want to know is, how do I get that cool blue bar that you have on your picture?
I know.
How come I don't have one? That's not fair.
Well, it's something, it's there. It's just a matter of finding it. But I'm adding.
Sounds like life.
Exactly. I'm going to add, just in case, let me see if I can do something really phenomenal here. I don't think I can change that, but what I can do is push something in here. No, I don't want to mess it up. I'm going to leave it as is for now, but what I will put in the comment bar is I will put in both of our websites. Our main company is Work-Life Performance Consulting. My company that is a division of Work-Life Performance Consulting is Work-Life for Women. I will put both of those in the comment box, and if you'd like to comment or follow up with us, please feel free to do so. And we'd love to hear from you. So share experiences. And
so here's a little workplace flexibility. Now that we finished our office hours, can we go have some lunch?
Yeah, I think we need to schedule that in. So thanks everybody for joining us. It was a lot of fun, and we look forward to doing more of these and hang out with you another day.
Just a quick question. Is this going to be on YouTube or available for people to be able to review?
Absolutely. It will be uploaded immediately.
Huh.
unless we decide to do otherwise.
Wow.
Which we do have some control over that. But if we
We
want to broadcast to the world,
we better edit it.
I think we need to edit a little portion there. But it's interesting. You have something on the main website, isn't it? Broadcast to the world.
Yes.
So here we are. We're actually doing it.
Hmm.
We're broadcasting to the world. So be it.
Great.
Have a great Friday, everybody. Great weekend. Thanks for joining us.